This time around, talking about insecurity in the country is something that is on the lips of virtually every Nigerian as the country become more and more insecure. If you talk about insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and so on, the list is endless. Some of them are even taking different forms now. We have in the studio Dr. YAHUZA Ahmad, a security expert, that will be talking to us about recent happenings. There was an explosion some days ago in Maiduguri, which seemed to be a kind of a resurgence of what used to be the practice some years back. And so he'll be talking to us about that. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure.
All right. Now, well, just when we thought that we've moved on from those eras of bomb explosions, yet another one happened, you know, just a few days ago in Maiduguri. Some are saying it's because of the proximity between that location and where, you know, the repentant Boko Haram, I would say, fighters are residing. And so maybe that's one of the factors and all of that. What's your reaction to that incident?
You know, this raises many questions. One, the government of Muhammadu Buhari administration have been proclaiming that they have succeeded and won the war against Boko Haram. And we are seeing occurrence and reoccurrence of the Boko Haram activities. That is one. So why? Secondly, the number of Boko Haram, Nigeria is supposed to have learned a lesson from what happens in Gombe State sometimes back, when some of the so-called repentant or rather Boko Haram who were apprehended were kind of imprisoned and caged, and Nigeria spent huge amount of money in establishing a special prison, or what they call a rehabilitation, or whatever name they give it. But rather, during the course of the process, the operation failed, whereby it was attacked. So in a situation whereby you have a Minister of Interior is becoming an engineer, and then in a circumstance where you remove an expert, you remove General Dambazo, who is a professional, who is an expert, who have the security expertise, and you bring somebody who is an engineer. We are not even sure if he is a qualified engineer or whatever. That is not what matters. What matters is he having a stop that's supposed to have been on that position, so that he can guide and prevent the occurrence, and then as part of the principles that's supposed to be advising the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, in respect to security, because internal security have a very good input is expected to harness. So looking at what happens at the explosion, more explosions are coming. It is very clear. It is not that I have the hint, or I know it is being prepared, but the reality is you don't have who is fighting the Boko Haram. The polity within the military, it kind of compromised the professionalism. So you don't have the personnel, you don't have...
But you have a Minister of Defense who is a retired general, right? You have also a National Security Advisor who himself was a military officer. You also have the generals in the defense sector talking about what do you call it now? The Chief of Defense Staff, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
The Chief of Defense Staff and all the other service chiefs, who are professionals.
Notwithstanding, even the National Security Advisor is not a professional that's supposed to be there. Because if he is, remember, there was a time, and I quote, he had an interview with BBC Hausa. He made mention very clear that a huge amount of money has been budgeted and released for the purchase of arms, of hardwares, and improvement in the security strata within the military, either the Navy or the Army or the DSS, whichever is a general statement. So, but what do we see? The response, the question I am asking is, he said he didn't see the arms, and this man made the statement in his conscience, not that he was forced to do that, but what happens later. And then at the same time, the Minister of Defense...
Are we really budgeting enough? Because, you know, we've always talked about
let me tell you,
how that we've spent a lot of money.
Let me tell you something.
But sometimes, if you really look very closely, you see that we haven't really spent as much as we should.
No, let me tell you something. I want to tell you, go back to the records. Since independence, since Nigeria's independence, there is no government besides that of Yakubu Gowon during the fight, the course of Biafra fight, that ever make the perfect procurement process on paper, budgeted huge amount of money, made huge amount of releases, and have a very clear retirement documents that explained how much massive amount was imputed for the purpose of security compared to that of Muhammad Buhari government from 2015 to date. When I had the pronouncement or the reading of 2022 budget, the money allotted for security, I'm telling you, when I had it, I couldn't sleep that night. Because my assumption is this man getting another, going to the moon world so that he can procure another space so that Nigerians will be moved from us to the moon site so that we will be safe there.
Yeah, but isn't it justifiable?
Because the huge amount of money. So the issue of budgeting,
isn't it justifiable to have that huge amount budgeted?
The issue of budget is not even an issue. Buhari government have made a huge made a massive expenditures as far as procurement and improvement of security is concerned. But on all this, we are seeing there is no result. Okay,
so is it that Nigeria is taking the wrong approach, or what really is the problem?
Well, the key is the corruption. Remember, and I quote, the late General Atahiru, the former chief of army staff, made mention something to the Senate committee on military or whatever. When he was asked, when he brought reports of the expenditures and whatever, when they were scrutinizing, he asked them a question and he sent them a message. You know who you give the money? You know how much you give them? And they are in my office. You know how they spend the money. Go and invite them to come and explain how the money has been spent. And a few days later, this man died. So the question and concern here is, it means there is huge amount of connivance, irresponsibleness, issues around integrity, issues around transparency, issues around accountability, issues around who released what and for what, and issues around monitoring, tracking, and making sure that these things, the money that is being spent, is being accounted for.
So who is responsible, for that? Who's supposed to be responsible?
It's a joint responsibility, because if the Senate have been releasing the money, have been allowing the money to be budgeted, and all the budget defense took place, and the release, you cannot release such huge amount of money without the consent of the Senate and so on and so forth. Was the committee supposed to work together with the, so for that, it means that the executive have a problem. There is issue. Either there is no responsible executive, or there is question of responsibleness of who supposed to do what and why not doing what. And then the question of loyalty. If at all corruption and the military are participating, I just saw it sometimes that the Minister of Defense is warning military or asking them to shun politics. I laughed, because they are fully incorporated into political affairs.
Okay.
So now, the professionalism have been compromised.
Okay, so if you talk about the executive, that is why we have the lawmakers, the National Assembly, that is supposed to
the seat bonus
have the oversight function, over government ministries, departments, and agencies.
Yes, the seat bonus. I don't call them lawmakers.
Is involved, That oversight function is supposed to be there to always, from time to time, scrutinize and to see how the spendings that have been approved, is going and where it is heading, and all of that. Are we not doing enough?
We are not
in that regard.
We are not. That is why I told you that corruption have been is kind of, we either fight corruption in this country or corruption will consume us. So there is something is wrong. From the statement credited from the three executives, three part of the government, one from Atahiru, I'm making reference, to the Minister of Finance at one time made mention that she has given about 8 trillion or thereby, or 2 trillion or thereby, within a couple of months. And yet, the ministry or the military were at the Senate and saying that it's not there. And the National Security Advisor.
Is that really correct? Because we do not have up to 8 trillion naira. I mean, from the whole, from 2016 to date, we are talking about barely 4 trillion naira in its entirety.
2 trillion. I'm just making a reference. It is there on all the papers. Records is there in the records. So huge amount of money, massive funds have been released, and they were arguing that it has not been released. And the permanent secretary, Federal Minister of Finance, was there, depending and presenting documents transparently that this is what has been released. But yet, so when you look at only these 3 things, and then when you look at the happenings in all other parts of the country where you are having the rising insecurity, you ask question. And you make reference to the fact that I told you that since independence, no government ever budgeted huge and massive funds and made perfect procurement, and all the necessary expenditures are put in place, but yet there is no result compared to that.
Okay, do you think that there is this dimension of international politics being a problem here in terms of Nigeria acquiring some of the machineries that it requires, to prosecute this, fight against insecurity?
Which machinery?
I mean, we talk about, say, the Super Tucano, for instance. It took about 3
Those
to 4
are stories
years,
I see on the newspaper.
It took about 3 years
for
us to get them. So
those are stories I see on the newspaper, and
yes,
I get them on the media.
The United States, for instance,
but yet
talk about certain conditions before they will be able to allow Nigeria to procure certain firearms.
Let's be honest and realistic.
Let's look at that.
I want to tell you, those hardwares or whatever you call it are stories. Because in a situation whereby the question you ask yourself, and I keep asking everybody and every Nigerians, including the president himself, one, it is either the president is not receiving the correct brief of exactly what is happening on ground, or the military operations. Remember that what we have in totality, the total number of security operatives we have is not up to 18% of what Nigeria requires in delivering the mandate in securing the nation. Our recruitment process in the last 25 to 35 years, or even more than that, have been messed, whereby merit has been compromised, whereby a government house have their list, commissioner have his list, commissioner of police have a list, director SS have a list, local government chairman, as ordinary as Ungwa, that is the ward head, the village head, the district head, and all the emirates. Okay. So it's kind of all the key stakeholders that's supposed to help in purifying or making the perfect recruitment in the last 35 or more than that, 25 to 35 years. So most of those who are now at the helm of the affairs, they don't have passion, they don't have compassion, they are not patriotic, they don't have interest, whereby professionalism have been compromised. Okay. So
what's the most
it is really sad.
Yeah.
Those hardwares that you are talking, whether the condition there or here, whatever. So what of the armaments that the criminals are having? Let me tell you, I have more than I can list, if there is time. If not because of time, I can list to you 126 communities, settlements, towns, and villages within only 5 states of Kaduna, Katsina, Niger, Sokoto, and Zamfara, whereby within less than a kilometer or 1.5 kilometer out of that community or out of that settlement, you meet the bandits and other criminals hanging their AK-47. What have the president made mention? How many instructions have the president been given? That whosoever you sight with AK-47, please shoot at him. And the chief of army staff made mention that kill them and bring their corpse. We have been hearing about airstrike, launching, neutralizing bandits, neutralizing Boko Haram, but yet we didn't see the instruction. And what we expect from the military is to see the practical demonstration of the instruction, whereby they show us the corpse of the people they are neutralizing, of the people they are killing. And I want to tell you that there is nowhere that is safe, that you move freely in Nigeria up to a kilometer, even in Abuja here.
Okay.
You know what is happening. You remember that University of Abuja was attacked. You remember that there are a couple of unreported, so many unscrupulous elements and that are covering all these state governments of northwestern state and part of the north central state and some other part of even the northeastern state. See the result. What happens after saying that we have won Boko Haram? So where are the armaments? And this armament, where are they coming from? And all the money being delivered to the bandits in all the state of the northwestern state and part of northeastern state and north central state, is the money going through an air? Okay. Or is there any different Nigeria where the money is going somewhere else?
Most of your statements, are carrying the word corruption. Yes. And President Muhammadu Buhari is seen as the anti-corruption crusader. What image?
That is a voice note.
What image does that create for his government?
That is a voice note. During his campaign and in many of his statements, he made mention that we are going to fight this. We are seeing the selective pronouncement of the so-called fight on corruption. Muhammadu Buhari should stop deceiving Nigerians that he is fighting corruption, or he is agitating, or he is making a proclamation, or he made mention a promise. What happens? We saw the case of the dollar with Ganduje. What happens? At the end of it, Muhammadu Buhari went to Kano and lifted off and asked the Kano people to vote for Ganduje again. And we have so many evidences against Buhari's fight on corruption. So it is just a mere story. Okay. It is just a voice note, okay, which I hear, and an ordinary person in the village can tell you it is a storytelling.
Okay, so we have a problem here of corruption. We have a workforce that in itself, in the first place, is not even enough. And then the insufficient workforce now seem to not be willing to even
fight
from
I disagree with you. We have the workforce. You have the ICPC. And
not on corruption. I'm talking about the security, of officials now, yes, security agents, yes, to fight, the insurgency and insecurity in the country.
That is why I told you.
A lot of people talk about the insufficiency of the, number of our security forces. You talked about,
absolutely,
it's about 18%.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so now, even the ones that we have we seen the will, the morale, the commitment, to fight this war? And what are the reasons why we are not seeing as much, commitment?
How can you see the will in a situation whereby someone that have been sent to the field for operations, probably in the process he has been shot to his arm and he has been brought? The military cannot even give him the proper care, and many who died, their families were asked to leave the barrack. So how do you motivate them? And a lot of them will tell you that their allowances, we have seen a lot of demonstration even in northeastern part of the country and even in some part of the northwestern part of the country, whereby they are demonstrating and they are protesting that their allowances are not being paid. So there is no motivation. Let me tell you one thing. As far as I'm concerned, Muhammadu Buhari administration is never serious about fighting insurgency and issues on banditry and helping matters in respect to the security situation. Why? Because let me give you as many reasons as possible. In short, if at all they are serious, how many unemployed youths do you have in each of the political polling units? If Muhammadu Buhari administration is really serious in its all proclamations that they have been making in respect to security, unemployment, economy, and what have you, you can engage, at least you can employ minimum of 40 people per polling unit between the age of 17 to 22. You have many graduates, you have many NCE graduates, you have many diploma graduates. There is no polling unit in Nigeria that you cannot have up to 40. So if political ward have 10 polling units, 40 times 10 will give you 400. If the local government have 10 political wards, you will have 4,000. So if Nigeria, let's do a random sampling, sampling for making a recruitment in at least 500 out of 774 local governments that we have in the country. So if you can massively recruit and distribute this number as mentioned into the military, and that is Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force, Nigerian Navy, DSS, Civil Defense, Immigration, Custom, and what may be, and all the security, you will have the narration change.
Okay.
But so, because of lack of commitment, lack of seriousness, lack of synergy, even between the available security personnel that you have, whereby Nigerian Navy are struggling and with the Nigerian Army. Nigerian Army are struggling with the Nigerian Navy, and Air Force are struggling with the DSS. DSS are struggling with police. So you don't have even an organized system that can go in fighting the cause for you to have the result, the expected result. Okay, that is why Nigeria is a country of uncertainty.
So what kind
and
of
we are technically
what kind of approach, you know, do we need in Nigeria to tackle insecurity?
Key. The Muhammad Buhari government and any other government that may come at a later must find a way of fighting corruption. Once we cannot fight corruption, we will never be a secured nation.
But can we really fight corruption?
Absolutely, indeed. If we are ready, you are ready, I am ready, he is ready, and if we have the focus from the leadership, a lessons supposed to be taught, we didn't see an execution or implementation. Where is Evans? Where is this? Where is that? Where is those? So let them execute one person and you will see a change.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here because of our time. We thank you so much for coming on the program.
It's been quite interesting.
We've been speaking with Dr. YAHUZA Ahmad. He is a security expert. We hope that you come on the program again so that we can talk much more.
Thank you very much. It's been a good pleasure.
All right.